While most apocalyptic films will see a massive decline in the human population of Earth, there are still usually scattered survivors that will live to fight another day. However, what about those films where every single person on Earth disappears or gets exterminated? Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 films where the world ends. Number 1, Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods is a 2001 comedy horror that capitalized on the meta style of film storytelling by paying homage to classic horror films using a variety of tropes, especially the setting itself. A rundown cabin nestled deep in the middle of the woods, with a group of college-aged kids spending their summer there. What made this film unique is the subplot that revolves around a team of scientists run by a clandestine organization that must attempt to appease some sort of dark gods through entertainment. In this case, killing a bunch of sexy young people in the most brutal ways possible. All of this is, of course, an allegory for modern audiences and their desire, or craving rather, for more blood, more nudity, and more carnage in their spooky blockbusters. This brings us to the topic at hand as we watch the students make all the classic horror mistakes and end up in worse and worse scenarios, being stabbed, decapitated, even ripped in half. Towards the final act of the film, two of the victims, Marty and Dana, find a secret entrance into a gigantic laboratory below. Kinda reminds me a little of the Resident Evil games and films. And here's where they learn the truth. Not only does this facility house a plethora of gruesome ghoulies from all manners of nightmares, but they choose to go for a little payback by hitting the all release button and setting everything free in a fantastically gory and oddly cathartic montage of brutal deaths. Cut to the end though. They are confronted by the leader of this organization, played by Sigourney Weaver, who spills the beans that if they don't die in a specific order and a specific way, the ancient deities will become quite angry and kill us all. Psst, who's gonna believe that, right? What a bunch of baloney. Marty manages to trick a nearby werewolf into killing her and lights a joint up to share with Dana. But turns out Weaver wasn't joking, and the facility is destroyed, as well as the entire world, when the gigantic evil gods erupt from the ground, destroying the planet. R.I.P. Earth. Take some time to pay some respects on Prime, Google Play, or Apple TV. Number 2, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. We're talking the classic 1978 version here, and this story has been remade several times over, even reinvented in some cases. Though I'm curious, no one has attempted to try and do it with something like artificial intelligence, instead of just aliens or some kind of fungal spores. For those of you unfamiliar with this film, basically an alien life form lands on Earth and infects a few locals. Then, as it devours them, similar to films like The Thing, it copies them down to the DNA and creates a kind of zombified clone of those people, which it controls through a kind of hive mind function. The film follows a group of people who become aware of this and try to fight against it. But this is a list video about the world ending, right? So, just as our heroes think they've got it all figured out how to avoid the drones and hide in plain sight while using fire and whatnot to dispatch them when they're in smaller, more manageable groups, they set up a plan to try and build a resistance with all the other survivors across the world. One of the main characters suggests that each day they meet in the town square to update each other with new movements and any information they uncover about a possible cure. Well, the film ends with Elizabeth going to meet up with Matthew when she notices he's acting strange, not like himself. Oh no, He's become one of the pod people. As Elizabeth tries to flee, she sees that she's surrounded, even by other resistance members who have also been converted, and there's no escape. The human race is doomed, all joining the Great Hive. See if you can make that escape on Max, Hulu, Sling, Roku, Prime, Fandango, Google Play, or Apple TV. Number 3, Knowing. Knowing is a 2009 Nicolas Cage vehicle, which at the time had plenty of buzz around it, especially in the home rental market. You know, before streaming really took off. Basically, Cage is a single father, and his kid is doing one of those time capsule recovery things. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but basically, a class about 20 years earlier wrote some letters and put a bunch of personal things and memorabilia into a sealed container, which was buried so that in the future it could be dug back up, opened up, and we could see how much has changed or how many predictions for the future came true. I remember doing one myself, and I'm still waiting for my flying cars. Anyways, one particular letter inside the capsule was just a seemingly endless series of numbers, like some giant math equation. Luckily, Cage is a professor, so he takes it upon himself to try and decipher it. And wouldn't you know it, the numbers correspond with every major disaster, the date, time, and even the geolocation that has occurred in the last 20 years, as well as several which haven't happened yet. And they all lead up to one big final number. I think you know where I'm going with this. The twist here, though, is that this information was beamed down from a highly evolved alien race into the mind of a little girl who everyone thought was just crazy or autistic. And so it was dismissed and nothing was done about it. These aliens do show up at the end of the film, though, and like Destiny, Cage's son and his little girlfriend are offered to basically become Adam and Eve for the human race, to start it all over once the current population of Earth is completely wiped out. So technically the world, as we know it, does end. But at least there's some hope, right? Make sure to check this out on VIX, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 4, Life. This is one of my personal favorites on this list, as it very much reminded me of Ridley Scott's Alien film. It was clearly inspired by it. The film follows a group of scientists, astronauts, doing their thing aboard a space station when they come across a single-celled organism of alien origin. Cool, right? I mean, it's just an amoeba at this point. Harmless as long as it's contained. After showing it off to the world via the news, and even letting a class of elementary students name it Calvin, they begin to run some minor tests on it. One test kind of pisses Calvin off, though, and he begins developing defenses, evolving right before their very eyes. Long story short, Calvin eventually breaks free, and people start dying aboard the station. So, if it's stuck in space, how does the world end? Boy, do I have some disappointing news for you. After the crew is pretty much wiped out and there are only 2 remaining survivors, David, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, opts to sacrifice himself by luring Calvin into an escape pod and basically launching himself deep into space, while Miranda gets into another pod and goes back to Earth. But spikes and strong tentacles isn't the only thing Calvin has evolved. He is also quite the smart little bugger and manipulates events so that Miranda is actually shot off into space, doomed to asphyxiate when she runs out of oxygen, which means, yep, David crash lands on Earth with Calvin inside this pod with him. Calvin has now grown into this giant starfish octopus thing and kind of trapped David in a weird cocoon when some Vietnamese fishermen approach the capsule that splashed down in their ocean. The moment that door opens, well, we're all dead. You can catch this adventure on Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 5, Melancholia. Melancholy was a term used for depression way back when, and as we follow Justine through the story, it's plain to see she suffers from severe depression. Her sister Claire is there to help guide her and try to make the most of everything. What the sisters don't really know is that a planet is going to crash into our world until it's too late to think of anything else. It really is a sad film, and considering it's part of Lars von Trier's Depression trilogy, it's understandable. The somber score with vivid imagery alongside Kirsten Dunst's impeccable ability to have lifeless eyes set the tone for the entire film. I don't want to spoil too much of the ending, but to me it's just a bit bittersweet. Justine knows she's gonna die and welcomes it, but the hope that she brings to her nephew and the strength she gives out to her sister is powerful. Justine already knew that the brother-in-law took a coward's way out, and in this sense I will say that, as he was more worried about his own life than that of his sons, whom he doted on previously. But I digress. As this beautiful blue planet makes contact with ours, and the three of them are in this field, it just elicits so many emotions. The brilliance of everything about this film should be experienced, and you can check it out on Tubi, Pluto, Roku, Philo, Plex, Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, Fubo, Prime, Google Play, Fandango, Redbox, or Apple TV. Number 6, Army of Darkness. So this entry may confuse a few of you out there who saw the original theatrical release of the film, or catch it every Halloween season when it replays on various channels, as that ending sees Ash safely back at home in his time, back at work at S-Mart with a babe on his arm and blasting holes in a deadite that tried to follow him. Technically, this is the canon ending, as Ash vs. Evil Dead confirms and continues on from there. But so is the director's cut ending. How can two very different endings be both canon, you say? Well, originally, Sam Raimi wanted to end the film with Ash having to drink a potion that would halt his aging and put him in a suspended animation. And then he would wake up again in the future, back in his own time. Except Ash, of course, drinks way too much of the potion and wakes up like 30 years later, deep in the middle of the Deadite apocalypse. The studio deemed this ending too bleak, and so it was rewritten, and we got what we got. But Raimi got the last laugh, as the finale for the Ash vs. Evil TV show ends with Ash drinking a potion and oversleeping and waking up in a nightmare future Deadite apocalypse. Now, Ash has fought armies upon armies of the undead and other nightmarish hellspawn. But since there will never be a sequel to the show, making that the definitive ending of that timeline, it's safe to say Ash didn't succeed, and the souls of humanity now belong in hell. You can watch the battle over on Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 7, In the Mouth of Madness. John Carpenter and Stephen King are friends in real life. After all, Carpenter is responsible for adapting King's novel Christine, and King absolutely loved it. Inspired by the author's vast amount of work and his explosion of fame and cult-like followers, especially in the 80s, Carpenter wrote a film combined with Lovecraftian elements pulled from the mountains of madness, and crafted a unique psychological horror thriller about dimensions of reality and the human mind's capability of shaping it. In the film, the author is named Sutter Kane. I mean, come on, right? Well, he's late at delivering the manuscript for his latest book, so the publisher sends an editor out to collect it. Not to spoil too much, as this really is a film you've just got to experience. But reality and fiction begin to overlap, in kind of like how in Nightmare on Elm Street, you begin to question what is actually happening. And what is just a dream or hallucination? Now, spoilers coming in, so if you want to be surprised by how we get to the world ending, skip to the next century. Still here? So it turns out that Hobbs End, Kane's version of Castle Rock, is a real place, and everything Kane has ever written has come to life there and happened, including his latest book, which deals with the Ancient Ones, a group of cosmic godlike entities coming to enslave the world and devour it, as well as soon as it's written, it's too late, and thus the world comes to an end. Make sure to catch this on Google Play, Apple TV, Prime, or Fandango before it's too late. Number 8, The Last Winter. This film left me questioning exactly what happened. Were they hallucinating? Was there some spiritual force that was slowly taking them out? Or was it just plain climate change? In the film, we follow a team that's trying to get some pipelines to the Arctic. However, it's been unusually warm. We're talking 40 degrees Fahrenheit in February. Talk about a heat wave, even for us northerners who are accustomed to sub-zero temps during that time frame. Anyway, with the permafrost melting, one of the scientists hypothesizes that the sour gas, aka hydrogen sulfide, is mucking everything up, including the people. Most of the team is left thinking this is just bullshit, but as the team members begin to lose their minds and die, it becomes obvious something's amiss. Now, after everybody but one of the women is dead, she wakes up in an abandoned hospital, finding only one person who's decided to end his own life. There's also a news broadcast playing in the background talking about all the natural disasters happening, which is ominous. We've seen some of these things in recent years. But once she steps outside, all we hear is alarms and hoofbeats in the area that's beginning to flood. There's no sign of life beyond her, and it's like her worst nightmare. So, is she in a hell landscape? Did she survive everything only to be left alone? So many questions. But also does play on that spirituality between the boss and the smart scientist, where the boss asks if the other guy believes in God, and he replies with, "In the sense that you're talking about, no." His reasoning is that God wouldn't want them to be destroying the planet. But the boss counters with, God wants a pipeline here. Mind you, they're also close to the Inuit tribe, where spirituality is more than just a god. It's in everything. So could something be protecting the land from them? Are they being wiped out like a virus would be? I am left with so many questions and would like to know your thoughts after you check this out on AMC Plus, Sling, Roku, Prime, or Pluto. Number 9, The Beyond. 1981 brought us this English language Italian Southern Gothic supernatural film that takes place in Louisiana. There's tons of lore down there, often bordering on extreme. So naturally, when we take a Christian look at other religions, we're meant to be scared. Anyway, a young Liza inherits this old hotel, but nothing about it is normal. And with her being from New York, she claims she fears nothing, until it's in her face. She meets people who aren't there, is attacked at one point, and just dead people all around her. She never really learns of what happened in 1927 when the townsmen came and killed a warlock just for being a witch, all the while the warlock is claiming only he can protect them from the 7 gates of hell. Shortly after his demise, the town basically dies. Everybody in it, at least. Fast forward, and with everything going on, Liza's having a mental breakdown from all that she's seen. Her and her doctor friend end up at the hospital so they could call the FBI and get some help. However, hordes of zombies are walking around. This whole segment kind of irritated me because even though he knows headshots work at bringing them down, he's still stupidly aiming for the body. Plus, how many times he should have run out of ammo, but I digress. Well, after they escape the hospital, they end up back at the hotel unexpectedly, and then are facing the brutal deathlands of hell when they also lose their vision and disappear. A lot of this is forewarned in the book Avon, but also contains the scripts for opening these doors to hell. So it's a double-edged sword there. I will say though, the effects are pretty grotesque, especially during the spider attack and all the hydrochloric acid. Don't let this story pass you up. It may be old, but it was still a good watch that makes you question whether we really know what we're seeing or not. So head on over to Zumo, Tubi, Pluto, Crackle, Plex, Peacock, AMC Plus, Fubu, Sling, Roku, Prime, Philo, Google Play, or Fandango to check it out. Number 10, Vanishing on 7th Street. This film flew under the radar for many people. Whenever I bring this film up to people looking for a psychological and supernatural horror film, almost no one has heard of it, which is a shame. It stars quite a few big names, including Hayden Christensen, who you might also know as Anakin Skywalker, Thandie Newton, John Leguizamo, Jacob Latimore, and Arthur Cartwright. The premise is quite simple, even though there are no real answers given for why these events are happening. Basically, there's something in the shadows, some kind of horrible echo of death, that if you get caught in the dark, you just vanish. Poof, you're gone. You can try and keep the lights on, but the days are getting shorter and these supernatural entities are able to cut the power, drain batteries, etc. Basically making it harder and harder for anyone to escape their icy clutches. Now eventually, the world has gone quiet, as like I said, you can't keep the lights on forever, and so that the theme of the list suggests humanity dies out. But here's a theory that I have discussed with some of the other members of the channel. What if we're seeing isn't actually happening, and it's more like the beginning of the life of Chuck, and the young boy is in like some kind of coma, and as his brain is dying or so, the people he remembers begin disappearing from his memories, blinked out of existence, making him forget details of the city he lives in and so forth, which is why it's all covered in darkness. It's probably not that, but I thought it was an interesting idea. If you have theories, let us know in the comments after you check this out on Zumo, Tubi, Pluto, Roku, Philo, Plex, Prime, Sling, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. We're also now on Blue Sky. You can find us at studiosfat.bsky.social, which will also link below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at batninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again and take care.